Hey, okay, so I wanted to do something. I just saw, last night I went and saw Avengers Infinity War for the second time. Um, oh my god! Holy crap! Oh my god, this movie is insane. It was so amazing. But, oh my god. Like, I was literally, like, I was speechless the first time the first time I saw it. Because I saw it opening night. And, yeah, like, I was literally, like, speechless coming out of the theater, and I was, like, shell-shocked for about 2 days after. I was like, oh my god. It was really, really well done. I thought they did a really good job of balancing all the characters, because there's so many characters in this. It's crazy. And so I thought they did a really good job with that. I wish that Captain America, like a couple of them, it's a shame they didn't get as much screen time, but I mean, with so many characters, you can't, some are gonna get less than others, obviously. But they did a good job with that, I thought, and I thought they also did a really good job of balancing the humor with the darker, more emotional moments, because there's some really good humor in the movie, too. Um, one of my favorite funny moments is, for whatever reason, Bruce Banner is having trouble transforming into the Hulk. And I think it might be because he's already had to deal with Thanos, because at the beginning of the movie, you see Thanos attacks the Asgardian ship, and the Hulk tries to stop him, and then he basically gets the crap beat out of him. And so yeah, it doesn't work. So I think that might have something to do with it. I don't know. But so he's having trouble transforming, and toward the end of the movie, there's the big battle in Wakanda to stop Thanos from getting the Mind Stone out of Vision's head. And Bruce, they've put him in the Hulkbuster armor from Age of Ultron. They put him in that armor, and he goes off to protect Vision from a couple of Thanos' goons, and he's like, okay, Hulk, I know you really, you like making your entrances at the last second. Well, this is it. This is the last second. We really need you. And the Hulk comes out for a second. He's like, no. And then Bruce is like, what do you mean, no? And then he goes, oh, screw you, you big green asshole. I'll do it myself. Oh, I just thought that was absolutely hilarious. And then there's another funny moment where Doctor Strange and Tony meet for the first time, and Tony's like, what exactly is it that you do besides making balloon animals? And Doctor Strange goes, protecting your reality, douchebag. I was like, yeah, burn. And then there's some really great moments too, because also Thor gets teamed up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and he he gets teamed up with Rocket, because what they do is they decide, okay, well, we have these, two ships, and there's the two groups of us. So Rocket says, okay, me, him, and, me, Thor, and Groot will go they go to Nidavellir for Thor to get his axe, because he needs a new weapon. So he's like, we'll go there, and you guys go to, and then you other guys, there's Peter, Drax, Mantis, and Gamora. Like, you guys go to nowhere to make sure the Collector and the Reality Stone are safe. And so they go, and then Thor keeps calling Rocket Rabbit, which is really, really funny. And then there's this moment where Rocket says, "Okay, if you're gonna beat Thanos, you need more than one eye," and he gives him this eye. It's like pulls his eye out of his bag and gives him it to Thor, and Thor's like, "Oh, thank you, sweet rabbit." And he's like, and Rocket's like, "Yeah, some guy lost a bet with me on Contraxia." And Thor's like, "He gave you his eye?" "No, he gave me 100 credits. I snuck into his room later and stole his eye." I was like, oh god. And then there's also some really some great character moments too. Like one of my favorites, it was a really kind of sweet little moment where Thor is talking to Rocket, because he told them what had happened with that. It's like, he slaughtered all of my people and all this and that. He's like, "Well, your father, he's dead. Mother killed by a dark elf. Best friend stabbed to the heart by, when Thanos slaughtered my people. And my brother, dead." you know. And, it really makes you realize, I mean, it's done kind of off the cuff and played for laughs, but it really makes you realize just how much Thor's had to deal with. And then there's this really sweet moment with him and Rocket where when they're going, and he says, "Oh, it's a dead brother, huh?" And he's like, "Whoa," and Thor's like, "Oh, he's been dead before, but this time I think it might be true." And then Rocket says something, but this Thanos guy, sounds really tough, like, "You're sure you're after this?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, Rage, lost, vengeance, they're great motivators, they clear your mind, I'm good to go." And he's like, he seems really dangerous, but he's like, "Well, he's never fought me." "Yes, he has. Well, he hasn't fought me twice." And then he says, Thor says, "I've been alive, I've been around for 1,500 years, and I've killed, twice as many people, twice that number of people, and every one of them, wanted to kill me first, but none succeeded, and Thanos is just the latest in the long line, and he says, I'm still alive because fate wills it so." And Rocket's like, "Yeah, well, what if you're wrong?" And Thor says, "Well, if I'm wrong, what more can I lose?" And I was like, oh, poor Thor. It was just this nice little moment, I thought, where you really see the humanity of Thor, and see that sort of vulnerability in him, which I thought was really cool. And then there's another moment where you see some of the relationship between Gamora and Peter, Star-Lord, because there's the relationship, and then they're going, as they're heading to nowhere, she says, "I have to ask you a favor. If Thanos, if somehow things go wrong and Thanos gets a hold of me, I need you to promise me you'll kill me." And Peter's like, "What?" And she says that I know something he doesn't, and if he finds it out, the entire universe will be at risk. I need you to promise me. So he's like, "Okay." So right after this, of course, they get to nowhere. Turns out he's there, and he's already got the Reality Stone. Well, they try to attack him, and he gets her, and she's like, "You promised you would do it." And then they finally admit their feelings for each other and say, "I love you," right before he's about to shoot her. And then Thanos turns Peter's gun into a bunch of bubbles because Reality Stone, and then takes her away, and then he gets the information out of her because she knows where the Soul Stone is. So he gets the information out of her by torturing Nebula, and finally she says, "Okay, I'll tell you where it is. It's on Vormir." So they go, and then he ends up sacrificing her to get the Soul Stone, and it was so sad, and she dies, and then a little later, when because a bunch of them are on Titan, which Thanos' homeworld, and there's there's Star-Lord, Drax, Mantis, Nebula, Doctor Strange, Tony, and Spider-Man. And so they're all there like waiting for Thanos, and then it comes out that he killed Gamora. And Peter's like, he's like, tell me you didn't do it. Like, tell me you didn't do it. Like, tell me she's lying, because it's Nebula that figures it out. And he's like, tell me she's lying. Like, you didn't do it. And then you see this switch like flip in his brain, and Tony can sense it too, because like what they do is they try to subdue him, and it takes like all 6 of them to even attempt to subdue Thanos. And Mantis is like using her powers, and she's like got him in this like trance or whatever. Well, because of what Peter does, he starts attacking Thanos, and it breaks him out of it. Well, Tony's like, don't, as soon as that happens, that it's revealed that Gamora's dead, you see this switch flip in Peter's head, and Tony's like, cool it right now. Like, don't engage, we almost got this thing off. And then he starts attacking him, Thanos breaks out of the trance, and then things just go to hell from there. And that's the thing, like, the dread you feel watching this movie is totally palpable. Like, Thanos is an incredible villain. Like, you feel the threat that he poses, like the stakes feel real, and they're so high, and it was so well done. And it was so sad too, because like it starts off with a bang, because the movie starts off with Thanos attacking, like I said, it starts off with him attacking the Asgardian ship. Right within the first 5 minutes of the movie, he kills Loki and Heimdall right in front of Thor. And he kills Heimdall, and Thor's like, you're gonna die for that. And then he kills Loki, and you're just like, no, 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 no. And then one of my favorite moments, so one of like the most epic moments, is Thor at the end of the movie when they have the battle in Wakanda. Thor comes in, and there's this like big crash of thunder, and takes out a whole bunch of Thanos's like goons, whatever. And he comes down, and he starts, charging his fire, like, bring me Thanos! And you're just like, yes! It was just such an amazingly cool moment. And at the screening I was in, there was actually people cheering when that happened, including me. Hashtag no shame. And it was just like, it was such a cool moment. And then the saddest thing too is like, because that's the thing, because like Thanos wins, and like I was not expecting things to play out like that, because there's a few moments like that where they almost get the gauntlet away from him, where you keep feeling like, okay, they're gonna be able to stop him, and then they don't. They end up losing, and Thanos, he gets all the stones. And because Wanda, what they do too is, because Scarlet Witch and Vision have, struck up a romance, and they're like in a relationship. Well, they realize there's a way to get this stone out of Vision's head and still like have him like live or whatever. Because Bruce says, that Vision, you're an amalgamation of like all these components, like Tony, me, Jarvis, Ultron, like all this, so we can separate the stone. You'll be okay, and then we can, destroy the stone so Thanos can't get it. Well, Wanda is the only one powerful enough to destroy the stone. Well, of course she's like, I can't do it, it'll destroy you too, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, we don't have a choice. So she ends up having to destroy the stone in the end, because they run out of time to try and separate all the components and whatever. So she ends up having to do it, and then Thanos comes along, and of course he's already got the time stone, so he uses it to turn back time and grabs the stone, and I'm like, no! And then one of the other pretty cool moments is Thor takes his axe, like throws it at Thanos, and like skewers him. And then he comes over and he starts like pushing it deeper, and he's like, I told you were gonna die for that. And then Thanos just goes, you should have gone for the head. boom, and snaps his fingers, and Thor's like, no! And then you see them all, like, dissolving and, like, dying. And it was just so sad. I think the one that got me most was Spider-Man. Because that was just so sad. Because he's like, he's like, Mrs. Stark, I don't feel so good. And then you see him, like, slowly starting to, like, you know, dissolve or whatever. And then he, like, kind of collapses into Tony. He's like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And then, like, he dissolves. And I'm like, no! It was just so sad. And then, and that was the other thing, too, like, because, and there's another funny moment where they first get, Tony, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man first get to Titan, and the Guardians are already there. Well, the Guardians start, like, attacking them, because, and they have this fight because they each think that the other is, like, an agent of Thanos. And then things start to get muddled up, and Doctor Strange kind of realizes, okay, something's not right here, and he's like, let me ask you this one time, like, what master do you serve? And then Quill goes, what master do I serve? What am I supposed to say? Jesus? I was like, yeah, I love Peter Quill, he's awesome. But that was a pretty funny moment too. But then also too, because Doctor Strange is adamant, he's like, we can't let Thanos get his hands on this. And Tony's like, you know, we have to bring the fight to him. So, like, you know, he'll come to us and blah, blah, blah. And Doctor Strange goes, okay, fine. But, like, it's my job to protect this stone, so understand that if it comes down to protecting you or the kid or the time stone, I will not hesitate to let either one of you die. And then near the end of the movie, he goes forward in time and looks through like 14 million some odd possible futures to find an outcome where they win, and there's only one where they win. And then in the end, he ends up giving up the time stone to save Tony's life, because Thanos is about to kill him. And he says, wait, stop. If you spare his life, I'll give you the time stone. So he does, and then he's one of the ones that disappears. So you're like, oh great, what the hell are they going to do now? And that's the thing, I'm wondering how in the hell they're going to fix this. And I saw a theory that I actually agree with, that they're saying that they're not going to be able to beat Thanos with any kind of, like, brute force or real, like, trickery per se. What they're gonna have to do, I think, I kind of agree with this theory. What this theory says was that they're gonna have to use his guilt over killing Gamora to convince him to reverse things. That could be one possibility for Avengers 4. How they potentially fix it, I don't know. 'Cause yeah, I'm like, oh my god. Like, how are they gonna undo this? Like, oy, it was just so crazy. And then what was it? And then, yeah, I think that's about all I have for that. Yeah, like I said, I thought it was absolutely incredible. And I was just blown away and really loved it. So yeah, I wanted to, you know, talk about it. Anyway, thanks for listening to me prattle on, and hope you enjoyed.